There's been a total of 61 concussions so far this NFL season, and while public frustration grows, players need treatment.
You're always smashing heads into one another, and so you're getting dizzy on a constant basis. You're seeing stars every day. Sometimes you're depressed, sometimes you're moody, sometimes you have headaches, and that's a reality of the game.
NFL doctors use opiates to dull the pain, but many players say those drugs are doing more harm than good.
It's a serious epidemic thing, just as bad as crack or heroin, you know, and I think medical marijuana could be an alternative.
Former NFL player Tank Johnson says a majority of players are already smoking weed.
70–80%. I mean, I hate to say that as if it's a bad thing.
So it's clear NFL players will get concussions, and a good number will self-medicate. Dr. Lester Grinspoon says they're onto something. A certain part of marijuana can be an effective treatment for head injuries.
We are now pretty confident that cannabis, marijuana, has as a medicine some qualities about it which make it clear that it is neuroprotective.
And as the effects of CTE only become scarier, treatments that challenge the status quo are starting to be heard.
We've talked a lot about CBD, a strain of marijuana used to treat children with seizures. It's now being used in a product called KannaLife, an experimental drug that has been hailed as treatment for head injuries. We're now joined by Dean Petkanis and Marvin Washington. Mr. Petkanis is the CEO of KannaLife, and Marvin Washington is a former NFL player who's now a spokesperson for the company. I want to welcome both of you to the show. And Marvin, I want to start with you. As I said, you're a former NFL player, and you've said that many players are on pot, but you've said that 100% of players are using pharmaceuticals. Walk me through what the doctors in the NFL prescribed to you when you were playing ball.
Well, not only just prescribed to me, but they prescribe them to everybody just to get through the NFL season. You're talking about anti-inflammatories from your naproxen, your Indocin, to your opiates that, you know, block the pain, which is a Toradol shot that you get before the game. And then after the game, all the painkillers. And sometimes you're taking the painkillers during the week, and you're taking the anti-inflammatory during the week. So you're on a seven-day regimen of pharmaceuticals. And we wasn't educated enough to know about some of the damage that it does to your liver and kidneys, and I still don't think they're telling players that. But some players are opting out and looking for alternative medicine.
And of course, the dependency that comes with that kind of a cocktail. Now, Dean, what is KannaLife in essence? Can it fill this void?
Well, we're working towards a research and development pact right now where we had first started looking at cognitive impairment design through hepatic encephalopathy, which is a disease that we targeted to form a brain liver disease. We think that neuroprotection could be afforded in our R&D that we started in that pathology and cross over into CTE, which is also neurodegenerative. So we think that there's some good parallels there to start with, and we're zeroing in on a drug that we can bring to the marketplace. Hopefully in mid-2015 we could file an investigational new drug application with the FDA. So
in layman's terms, let me just rephrase this so you can help me understand. This is a drug that contains weed, or THC, if you will, that will help treat the disease that comes from concussions?
Well, let me take you a step back. There's a bunch of chemicals inside the plant, THC being one of them, and we're not really looking at that model. We're looking at the cannabidiol model, which is CBD. And CBD is a constituent of marijuana and hemp in the natural form, and it can be synthesized and it can be used in either a prophylactic type of drug where you have some low-grade milligram dosage that could be taken over time to protect athletes if it is truly the neuroprotectant we think it is. And in severely acute injuries or concussive injuries, maybe a pharmaceutical drug that can be derived that's much more potent. So we're working on both sides of the panel, both on the natural side and on the synthetic side, but we're looking specifically at cannabidiol and cannabidiol-like molecules.
Now, Dean, you mentioned the FDA. So how would you get this FDA approved if marijuana is still federally a Schedule I drug?
Well, you've had in the past instances like Marinol, which is a THC synthetic that was developed in 1986 for wasting or patients that suffer from AIDS. They needed appetite improvement, and so Marinol was used in that capacity. It was called dronabinol, and it was rescheduled by the DEA in order to allow it to get through the FDA for approval process for use of medical use. So you can get a rescheduling of a particular drug in the event that the FDA sees through the clinical side of the review process and it's deemed safe for human consumption. Now, something to really focus in on is that cannabidiol is not psychotropic or psychotoxic, whereas THC binds to the CB1 receptor, causes a psychotropic high. Cannabidiol does not do that, and therefore is a constituent of marijuana and hemp that doesn't form any psychotoxicity.
But I want to get Marvin in here because, Marvin, you've dealt with the NFL's harsh stance on weed. You've been very critical of that. Do you think that KannaLife stands a chance at changing that?
Of course. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think we had a chance, because one of the things that Dean said, like CBD has no psychoactive effects, and there needs to be made a distinction between the THC recreational side and the CBD, which is the medical side, and that's what we're focusing on. And if it comes to fruition, this is going to make the NFL game safer. It's going to make the game safer for everybody that plays a contact sport, not only in the NFL, but in hockey, UFC boxing, lacrosse, soccer, whatever it is. A contact sport is going to make it safer. And so you can have a 12-year-old girl in Iowa take it, and a 27-year-old professional football player take it, and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to act as a neuroprotectant for the brain, and it has no psychoactive effects.
Now, Marvin, you have close ties still to the NFL. Have you talked to them about KannaLife?
No, I haven't, not as of yet. This thing is in its infancy, and so I want to get the science built up, get some proof of concept, and some peer review papers out, and then we're going to definitely approach the NFL about this, because the NFL right now, they're saying that they're following the science, but I believe, and the medical community believes, the NFL needs to lead the science, because when they get behind something, they can move the needle.
Thank you so much, Marvin and Dean. At least we're talking about alternatives to these pharmaceuticals. We'll be sure to follow KannaLife's progress as it develops.